Hello, all you women entrepreneurs living child-free out there in Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, wherever you are watching this. Tiffanie Kellog, your hostess here today, and I'm super excited to be joined by Annie Gaudreault. Oh, close. Pronounce your last name for us.
Gaudreault. Gaudreault.
Where does that come from?
It's a French name.
Gotcha. I thought French, but I'm more a Spanish gal, so I'll have to work on that in the future. Y'all, I'm super excited to be here today with another amazing woman entrepreneur living a child-free. Annie is here. And I'm tired just looking at this. If you've been in anticipation for today's conversation, what do 2 12 marathons, 3 Ironman triathlons, and a nutrition degree have in common? They all came after her career pivot. Oh my gosh. So do tell us, what inspired this bold reinvention?
I don't think that at first it was very intentional. Right? This is one of these things that one thing led to another. So, I was a brand consultant and a really, really good career, very successful, as we describe, quotation mark. And it's not that I hated my life. There was nothing like that. But I started to run and do endurance running because I just loved the community. I was surrounded by women. I had joined a women-only running group, and it became my sisterhood. And what I realized is like, oh my God, like I am digging this. This is amazing. And if somebody would have told me that, this really not super sporty girl would have actually liked endurance running, I would have been like, no, you've got the wrong girl here. Like, what are you talking about? And one thing led to another. So it was truly, one step at a time, literally and figuratively, that I discovered that there was so much more in me than I ever imagined.
And endurance running is like, that is not a sport you just pick up. Like, there's some things that you can just pick. If I wanted to get an axe, I could go in the backyard and pick up axe throwing. I don't know why that's the one thing that I picked. It doesn't take necessarily a lot. Endurance running, that takes a lot. I mean, you don't necessarily have to have a lot of equipment. I mean, the right shoes make a difference, but I mean, that's a pretty hardcore investment to do, running miles upon miles upon miles.
Yeah. And you're right. Like the thing that I love about running is that you don't really need to be talented, right? You don't need to feel like hitting a ball or, hockey playing or, I'm in Canada, there's a lot of hockey, right? Like tennis.
I'm in Tampa. There's a lot of hockey. Like, you don't think about Tampa and Florida being a hockey spot, but we have a lot of New England transplants, and like, the rink that I go to is 8 minutes from my house. It is the largest rink in the Southeast United States. We've got 4.5 rinks. We have this we got this massive complex.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Biggest in the whole Southeast United States is the rink that I love to go to. I haven't been skating in a while. Maybe I need to go skating this weekend.
Yes.
All right. I digress. Sorry.
You just need, I always say, a good sports bra and some running shoes, and obviously the rest. Right? You don't need anything fancy. Right? Mm-hmm. And this is one of the things that I love about it, is that it really is accessible to women. And science tells us that women are wired for endurance. Right?
That totally makes sense.
We tolerate pain a lot more than men, right? This is how we're built. So in a way, it's very interesting, because what I like to share is the fact that when you're running, there's no escaping. Right? You actually are, sometimes confronted literally with all of this stuff that goes on in your mind, right? I'm not good enough. I can't do this. I'm too big, too tall, too thin, not talented enough. And it is a great place to actually get stronger. And so one of the things I always say is endurance running is a great place for you to get to know truly who you are, not just the surface, but truly what's inside of you. And I believe that in every woman, there is an incredibly powerful person, and whether you run or not, but there's so much more in us. And I know it becomes a bit cliched, but when you actually live it and experience it, I'm like, oh yeah, this is true. There's a come to Jesus moment that comes when you're out there for 2 hours running and you're like, this is hard, this is painful. When is this going to be over with? You really need to dig deep. So this is what I really enjoy about it.
I love it. And it's such an interesting thing because I've done a lot of walking, but walking is very different than running. Because like most of the time when we were doing, because we would do, they've got the Susan G. Komen 60-mile 3-day walk. You walk 3 miles. I'm sorry, you walk 60 miles in 3 days. And I did that for about a decade. We did it each year. But in that time, you would talk to the people and you'd have conversations. You don't really talk when you're running. It's much more solidarity and kind of being with yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But what's really interesting is, you know how we say the expression, how you do one thing is how you do everything?
Mm.
It starts to show you that you can apply this to so many other places in your life. I'll give you an example, which I love, Tiffanie, because the first year my first marathon year, I was part of a large group of women. And I cannot remember how many of us, we flew down to Washington, D.C. for the Marine Corps Marathon. Oh my God. Amazing. Those Marines, mwah, love them. And we came back after the marathon and had an opportunity to share, what had happened to us within a couple months of having finished that marathon. And I'll never forget this one woman who came on stage, and she was a bookkeeper. And she said that now that she was back from the marathon, she had finally the guts to raise her rates with her clients. She said, I've not been able to do this in 10 years because I never felt worthy enough. The marathon transformed her and gave her more strength, more confidence. And this is why I am such a big fan of not necessarily everybody needs to be running a marathon, but to undertake challenges, because they will transform and open up opportunities in your life like you never imagined.
I love this. And for those of you watching, like, okay, what does she do? What are we talking about? We've talked a lot about running, and yes, we've talked a lot about running, and that's not necessarily what we're here to talk about solely, but that's just how these conversations go, y'all. So let me give you a formal introduction to Annie. She is a nutritionist and a health coach, and she founded which is VEEV, which we'll have to ask her what that means in just a minute, Health and Wellness, to support the needs of smart and successful individuals at midlife, giving them the confidence to do what they want to do with the energy that they need. And that's probably a key thing for, I don't know, I talk to so many entrepreneurs that are worn out and exhausted. Like, I feel like you and I probably have a good two-pronged approach of, let me deal with what are you doing with your time that's inefficient so we can make it better. And you're like, what are we doing with the body? Because, I could talk about all kinds of things. But can we start with what is VEEV, and then tell us a little bit about
totally.
What you do for
so, I went and got my degree in my 40s. I thought, okay, I'm going to get my degree as a nutritionist. I've got all this fitness. And now, this world is really big. Who are you going to serve? And when I was in school, what I noticed, because I was, of course, the old girl in my class, everybody was like 20. And I noticed that nobody cared about older women. Nobody cared about us. And at the time, I did not realize I was in perimenopause. Nobody cared, right? All these young women were interested in, maternity and fertility areas of nutrition, which is good. But all around me, all my friends, the wheels were starting to fall off, right? Some people were starting to have diabetes diagnoses, cancer, autoimmune diseases. And I was like, I need to serve my people. And my people became, the midlife women. So VEEV, VEEV, comes from joie de vivre, this whole notion of my philosophy around aging, which is life gets better as we age. And there is just so much that we can enjoy, so much more as we age than when we were in our 20s and 30s. So that's where it came from.
It's so interesting how life has continuing conversations. So I was just on a call with a client talking about, because he's my age, mid 40s, and just talking about how there's so much of our life that we still have left to live. And I know you like to say, because your second act should be your strongest. And a lot of times people think, okay, I'm in my 40s or 50s or even 60s, I'm done. Are we done at our 40s? Should we turn in our running sneakers? And I call it, y'all, I am not going to turn in my running sneakers. I don't run. That is one of those. Like, there's a lot of things I'm willing to do and try. Running is one of those that I just don't love. And I'm stopped trying to force myself to love. Same thing with coffee. I don't love coffee. Don't try to force it. There's other alternatives, though.
Exactly. But, it's an old way of thinking, because when we were, like in the 1940s, the life expectancy was 55, 57 years old. So, how we looked at that lifespan, of course, was that, like when you were 50, like the years are really short, the expectancy. However, right, if we look at women and an expectancy of 82 or 83 years old, and we go to menopause, an average 51-year-old, like we have 33 years on average to live. Like 3 decades of incredible wisdom and experience that we have accumulated, and also becoming into our own. That's the biggest thing that I see, Tiffanie, right? Finally shedding the whole, I need to keep up with the Jones and be whatever society wants me to be, and just be like, no, this is me, right? Don't tell me to drink coffee. This is not for me. So much better at getting into our own. And I think that's what's really exciting about the entrepreneur life. I think that's what's really exciting about this opportunity of getting older. It's like, welcome to my no nonsense years, right? I hear that all the time with my clients and my practice.
I like that no nonsense year. Somebody on social, another one of our women entrepreneur living child free, had a much more colorful phrase for it. I think she called her no F's given error. But I like the no nonsense totally works. And I like that it doesn't have to be one size fits all. I remember the first nutritionist that I worked with, she meant well, but she was way too extreme for me. Like, I wasn't eating vegetables at all. And she's like, just eat vegetables. And I'm like, no, it doesn't work. So tell me a little bit about, who is that ideal client? Who do you work with? How do you work with them in a way to help them generate results versus one size fits all, do it this way?
That doesn't generally never work with anybody on any subject, right? Usually, the women that work with me are professional women. They're entrepreneurs. They run companies. They're senior executives. And what they've seen is that they've hit midlife, and suddenly the wheels are a little bit like, ooh, we're hearing some, a little bit of rust, and things are not working well. They don't have the energy that they used to have. And then they have symptoms, right? So how I work with them is really holistic. So we look at, all of the pillars that literally will make somebody have great energy, get, just great their vibe back, right? And addressing, also very specific symptoms of peri and menopause, right? So that they can thrive. A lot of my clients are long past menopause, and then we'll focus on, like Tiffanie, maybe it will be like, somebody really is struggling with nutrition, but somebody else, it could be movement. Somebody else, and a lot of my clients, it's sleep, because sleep is a biggie, right? So we're looking at all of these different dimensions. And I work one-on-one with clients because at this stage, we really need a custom approach.
Yeah, or everybody's a little bit different.
Absolutely. You said it, right? One size does not fit all. And that's the problem with all the stuff that, and this is the thing that drives me crazy about the social media thing right now, is that people jump on the bandwagon of like, oh my God, but she said I should be fasting 18 hours a day. And women deprive themselves, put themselves through horrible things that are also not scientifically, backed, and spend a lot of money. And then they also feel shame because they're like, oh, but I'm not losing weight, or I'm not sleeping better, or I'm not able to do what all these people seem to all be doing. Oh, I'm not shredded with a six pack, right? All these very unrealistic things. So that's why I like to work one-on-one and get results on my clients.
Nice, nice. So if you're chatting with somebody, I know you mentioned the peri and menopause, because that is like hot topics once you hit a certain age. It's like you can tell what's going on with your friend group and what they've got going on with the conversations. The other day I was hanging out with some folks and I'm like, yeah, this age is way too much, because it's like I ate when I get up and I need to take these pills, and I'm like, yeah, I don't need to be hanging around. Not that I'm opposed to hanging around, but I'm like, that is not the mindset. Like the mindset of people that you're around, it is very infectious. And so the younger groups that we hang out with, they help keep us young. Though somebody was talking some kids stuff and I'm like, I'm so out of date. I'm like, I've finally reached the age where I just have no idea what the kids are talking about. And because I don't have kids, I'm like, I guess there's really no point in trying, because those cool words won't be cool by the time they get to be clients of mine. There'll be something new and cool that I don't understand. I used a Mary Poppins reference earlier. I'm like, I'm going to have to, how long is Mary Poppins and Wizard of Oz and all of that still going to be relevant? Sorry, that's a tangent, y'all. Because I was going to say, because I know you talk a lot with women about peri and menopause, and that is something that I know it's interesting, because a lot of the American women go through it. We don't see it as much in some of the other countries. So it is an interesting mindset shift. But if we've got any of our women entrepreneurs living child-free that haven't quite yet gotten out of that, I know some are past, some are like, I'm not even thinking about that yet. I'm still worried about turning 40. What are you talking about? And then you have others of us like that are right in the midst of it. So what advice do you have for our women entrepreneurs living child-free if we're dealing with or approaching that time?
I always say, like, the number one thing is educate yourself. Like, I didn't even know perimenopause existed, right? Like it was not a thing. So I would say that the first thing is just educate yourself around what that means and what are the potential changes that will come with that, right? No two women are alike on their journey as we age. So what maybe your friend or your neighbor or your colleague or, somebody in your mastermind experience maybe will be very different for you. So the more educated you are, the more you're going to be able to recognize the signs when they come, right? And when you start to go, this is weird. I'm starting to feel some anxiety. And that's actually, Tiffanie, one of the things that we hear and I see the most in my practice is women being shocked that they're having cognition changes, right? And mood changes. And they're like, what's happening? And I'm like, welcome to the club. There's nothing wrong with you. This is all part of, as a result of what is going hormonally in your body, right? So when we know, we just can be so much better empowered to respond to it, right? As opposed to beating ourselves up like, no, I've got to work more and I've got to, like we go into this, and this is women because we're, we are tough on ourselves.
The endurance. We're endurance.
Now we've got the stick and we're like beat, no, better, I should be doing better. And the reality is that, it's not about fault. We would not say to an adolescent, right? A teenager, like, I can't believe you've got pimples. It's like, this is hormonal. Well, it's the same thing when we start to get to perimenopause. So the big advice, number one thing is educate yourself, have some knowledge so that you can recognize the signs and then get the support that you need, whether it's through your physician or somebody like me, or, there are many, many options out there.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're telling us to educate ourselves. And so I'm wondering, what is that recommended resource? Maybe it's your website or a YouTube channel that you have, because let's be honest, there is all kinds of stuff out there. I can find just about anything that I want on the internet to support any thing that I believe. I can find it out there to I'm sure there's somewhere that I could find that if I stay, drunk and high, I skip menopause or something.
Every day.
Or Like I'm sure there's some like ridiculous, like something, having trouble with insomnia, just, drink yourself to sleep every night. I'm sure that there's, research out there for not good advice. So where can we go for good advice on educating ourselves on what our bodies are going
I love
through?
that question. So definitely, like, my website has a lot of information at veev.ca, but there are also really good, organizations. The Menopause Society is amazing. It used to be called the North American Menopause Society, but if you type that, you will get into the new name. But they've simplified their name, but they have a wealth of information. They have all of the symptoms. They have a whole bunch of information as to what are your options if you want to be doing that. And I will say, because you've got all these amazing entrepreneurs listening to this, and these women, all of us child-free, that we are being preyed on because they understand that this is a vulnerable time. So there is a lot of nonsense out there. There is a lot of people wanting to sell you products that do nothing. And I will say, like, they don't just do nothing, they can actually harm you. And this is where I have a lot of issues, right? With claims that, if you take this pill, you're going to lose 20 pounds. If that really existed, really, right? Don't you think that? So,
if it sounds too good to be true, it's not likely that you're the early adopter. It's that it's too good.
Yes. And you can really harm your body. You can really harm your liver. If you've got other issues, you could get into the hospital, right? So just be very careful. And I often say, like, check this across a couple of sources, right? Let's go see. And, because I always say that about me. I'm like, if you don't believe me, right, that anxiety, depression, all these things, like, here are a number of references and you can go and check, right? So that's what I want women to have, is good, reliable information, and then they can make the choices that are right for themselves.
Nice. So y'all, if you didn't catch it, easy website, VEEV.ca, makes it super easy. I've dropped it here. But we do have another website with a gift that I want to mention. And this, y'all, the link is in the description wherever you're watching this. Lose the Minnow Belly, which at first I was like, men, why are we talking about men? And then, that's how it goes with websites. Sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, okay. Use the menopause belly. So you want to tell us about this gift you have for us?
I always like to tell people that when I started my practice, I never thought I was going to be dealing with weight loss, because I thought, you know what? We have told women for too long that they should look a certain way. And this is the last thing that I want to do in my practice. But when I got into really specializing in midlife, what I realized is that so many women are struggling with that menopause, weight. And this is a scientific phenomenon that happens, right? This is not because we're failing, we're bad, or that we're having, Miss Vicky's chips, in the evening. Maybe that doesn't help a little bit, but this is a real problem that women experience. So I've developed this little guide that is basically about how to lose 10 pounds without a painful diet. So that you do it in a healthy, responsible way, so that you're not depriving yourself. This is the last time, of our time, that we need to nourish ourselves with really important nutrients, because our bodies are going through so much. So that's what this guide is designed for.
Awesome. So y'all, do check this out. 10 pounds in a reasonable and respectable way, doing the best for your body. So I do have an interesting question, and if you know, that's fine, and if you don't, because this is for our women entrepreneurs living child-free. Is menopause, perimenopause, is there a difference for women that have had kids versus not?
The one thing that we do know is that for women that have had children, they can experience more issues around what we call GSM. Basically troubles with, suddenly there's incontinence, right? Difficulty holding
Mm.
with the bladder. Those are the things that we see with women. More pelvic floor issues when you've had children. That's basically about it, right? Now, I always say, like, this is such a great time at menopause to look at your environment, not just the walls and what surrounds you, but who. And you hinted to that before, Tiffanie, which I loved. Women that still have kids, right? Hanging on, or coming back, because a lot is happening. The stress level. Right? This is a time for women to take care of
Mm.
themselves. So it's a time to practice. No, I cannot do this. No, you're going to have to do that yourself. Right. So being child free, I always feel that we have an edge on this. Right. Now,
Mm.
it doesn't mean that people around us don't need us. Maybe there'll be some parents, right? There's a lot of issues with elderly parents as well sometimes. So, we don't get a free pass, but it's an important time of life to really, really be in tune to what you need and have some serious boundaries.
Yeah, and I think that the child-free women just have a tendency. We've set boundaries, at least those of us that chose it. We've set boundaries, and we've set, like I always say, the women entrepreneurs living child-free is a very different, like they're different than women entrepreneurs, because that whole choice not to have kids, or being forced not to have kids, whichever they happen to be in. We welcome all at our community. So I'm going to throw the Facebook group up here. It's just women entrepreneurs living child free. We're celebrating. So I do know that there's some people that couldn't have kids, that this is heartbreaking for them. There are other groups out there for y'all. This is for the women entrepreneurs that just want to network without having the kid conversation. And it's interesting that it does make a difference here. And I feel like we are better at setting boundaries, especially if we chose not to have kids, because we said no to societal norms. And so I could see that we're better prepared to say no and set those boundaries. And yeah, when you don't have the kids hanging on, it's easier. Like sometimes I look and I'm like, here's what I need to do. And I'm like, what would I have done with my kids? I would have been under the weather for like a week and a half. What would I have done? Certainly not sat and done nothing for most of the days, because we would have had to keep
going. Absolutely. No, it's definitely an advantage, right?
All right. So y'all come join us on Facebook and on the socials. We are Women Entrepreneurs Living Child Free. We are trying to bring together more women entrepreneurs living child free so we can have these amazing conversations. And it has been an amazing conversation today, chatting with you, Annie. As we end every session, this is your time to shine. This is where we need to know, okay, what is it that you haven't shared that you need to share? What is it that you want to leave us with? What is it that we need to know?
I would say really embrace getting older with all of the possibilities, because what I see in my practice is that as we do that, oh my God, like it just gets better. More joy, more freedom, more peace. Oh, so good. And this ripples in your whole life and your relationship and your business, right? Like it's just amazing. So don't resist the change, but embrace the fact that, whoa, this on the other side is just a full upgrade of everything you know.
I love it so much. I'm a big believer. Some people are like, I'm getting older. And I'm like, it sure beats the alternative. I'm like, seriously, those are your two options. Let me age and have fun, or let me die. I will take aging and having fun any day. Annie, it's been a pleasure getting to chat about these marathons and, nutrition and where VEEV came from and French and all of that fun stuff. It has been a pleasure chatting with you. Check out her website. Go and grab your gift. Lose that minnow belly if that is something that you are struggling with, or maybe you're past that and you have a friend that you want to share it with. We would be happy to have you do that. We will be back next week, as always, 11/11 on Fridays for another amazing conversation with women entrepreneurs living child free. Annie, thank you so much for being here today.